Sam's going to talk to you about a fellow by the name of Malesherbes. In the French Revolution, he defended Louis XIV. And apparently I'm getting some sort of recognition because of that, in honor of this fellow. And at first I thought, well, geez, that doesn't seem appropriate. There's got to be a lot more people that deserve something like that than I do. After all, I'm still alive, for one thing. Malesherbes went to the guillotine along with Louis XIV, you see, for having had the temerity to defend the king. Well, the more I thought about it, I thought, well, maybe it is appropriate. Every time I go to court now, you know, I'm disadvantaged because in the days leading up to the Aryan Nations trial, I have been receiving death threats regularly.
People that are spreading this venomous message of whites only in the United States, I think need to be put out of business and no longer be able to cloak themselves in this First Amendment.
That I believe in equal rights for all, special rights for none.
Edgar, I don't know what to think. I think basically you're full of shit. Man, I can't believe it. A person that owns a big ranch and everything, you think these people are going to protect you?
Hey, Edgar, think long and hard about your buddy Randy Weaver because you're next. Fucking tight. Nigger love fucking Jew. Bastard. Watch your back. And Nicky's.
But I just didn't think much about it. I figured it went with the territory. Until I came home one afternoon with my wife, and my little 6-year-old daughter came running out, terrified.
Hey, you little Jew bitch, you're going to hell. Watch out when you leave your house. Today at 2:04 p.m.
And my 8-year-old son got a same phone call from the same woman.
Back in the year 2000, my family received a variety of death threats, individually delivered over our voicemail system. I remember this day very clearly. I just returned home from school on the bus with my little sister. We walked inside the house and I noticed the red light blinking on the phone and checked the messages. There was a message that was left for me, so I checked that one first. It was from a woman telling me that because of my family's decisions, because of my father's choices, that our entire family was going to die, that I was going to be killed, that if I dared step foot outside of my house, that people that were watching were going to kill me. I was very confused and not sure how to take this message, and as I was hanging up the phone, my little sister comes running from her upstairs room where she had just listened to a similar message that had been left for her, bawling her eyes out, crying, extremely upset, and not understanding what was going on.
And my 16-year-old daughter got one. And there was a message left on my wife's machine for her.
Hey, Cindy, if something were to happen to you, or to Nikki, or to Kelsey, or to Rex, do you think it would be considered a hate crime? Probably not. The FBI would love to see you dead. So would everybody else, you stupid kike. Today at 2:06 p.m.
We didn't identify the woman, but I identified some of the other threats I got, and they were rendered by the JDL, the Jewish Defense League. So it was ironic, and I sent them away for 3 weeks at that time to an undisclosed location for their safety. You know, I take these cases we've been talking about, and there are other cases too, but I take them to make a statement. I'm not going to change things. I'm not going to change the laws. I'm not going to have any effect on the establishment. There's one reason I take these cases. These cases reach the lemmings. They reach the fence sitters. These cases annoy everybody. And with these cases, I'm able to speak to those outside the choir. And that's why I'm taking them. Along the way, I get tarred and feathered along with my clients. Kind of like this Malesherbes guy. But this is something I can do. This is something that I must do because of that, because I can do it. and I will do it, until, as with Monsieur Malesherbes, the system decides to dispense with me. I can only take on just a small number of these cases that I mentioned. I get emails and letters every day. It just breaks my heart to read about the situations that people are in. The tyranny that is occurring in America, in all places, at all levels of government. It's not just federal, it's not just state, it's local too, it's everywhere. It's overwhelming. Today is the entitlement mentality of socialism, with the centralized control of everything and everybody. Today it's the overriding control freak outlook of fascism that's the order of the day in America. And it's getting worse. Used to be we had rights. Today we possess only privileges, and those dispensed at the pleasure of our centralized government. A coup is taking place, ladies and gentlemen, and it's taking place under our very noses. The Patriot Bill was passed without a single member of the legislature having read it. In just the last couple of weeks, the Supreme Court has extended rulings which erode the due process completely out of sight, as if the Patriot Bill hadn't already done it. Freedom of Information Act changes were announced by Bush last month as procedural directives, whereby most public documents are now put out of reach. And very recent executive orders, just the last couple of weeks, put still more public data out of reach, marked as sensitive but unclassified. Now, I once held a top secret clearance, and there was no such classification then. Even before 9/11, 2 months prior, House Resolution 2459 was proposed to create a cabinet-level Secretary of Peace and outlined the means whereby essentially the collapse of America's constitutional government could take place and be replaced by a militarized socialist government. Well, geez, isn't that what's happening at this moment with the Department of Homeland Security? It's going to be elevated to a cabinet position pretty soon, I heard. There are those who say that this has been accomplished today via the Department of Homeland Security. I'm one of them. Bush and Ashcroft have both declared their critics to be traitors. You know that. You heard that, didn't you? And they warn the rest of us to watch what we say. Now, I've said for a long time that the Bill of Rights have been trashed, and the only thing left is the First Amendment, but it's lying prone on the floor and breathing shallowly. The media is totally under the control of the politically correct today, what I call the inner party, if you will. Orwell's fantasy has become the media's reality today. Whites are depicted as avaricious and stupid. Blacks are noble and witty. Homosexuality is a desirable lifestyle. Christians are narrow-minded anachronisms. Patriots are traitors. The war to preserve our freedom requires that first, they cancel all of our liberties. Tomorrow's police state has already been established. You want to see it in full bloom? Just go to the airport. Tomorrow's Christians are already here. They're supporting the chosen. They're supporting what's going on today. Religion must go. Because by definition, religion is not subservient to the state. The family must go to be substituted with the government as the new parent. Individual rights, the individual must go, because we as individuals must be a part of groupthink. There will be no entrepreneurship. I'm not sure there is anymore anyway. It's just big business, Enron style. There will be no private wealth. There won't even be cash. There'll just be debits and credits and an electronic ledger someplace. And we're moving towards that right now. You know, we've always looked out for the UN and Russia and China and now the Arabs as the boogeyman. But while we were making a sandwich during the commercial break, a coup took place. Today we've got a dictatorship with only illusions of democracy, make no mistake. there's not even the pretense of this being a republic anymore. You know, the New World Order is here already, in case you hadn't noticed. It's America. Let me say that again, because a lot of people don't want to recognize the fact. The New World Order is here already. It is America. Now, all of these cases that I've been mentioned have those things in common. And let me tell you, the deck's stacked. The state's dealing from the bottom, and it doesn't even need to because it's got aces up its sleeve. I told you that we have something going on in this country worse than military tribunals. Well, those 2 children custody cases I told you about, here's what happens in those cases. And even lawyers don't believe this that haven't practiced in these courts. These are closed hearings, secret hearings. The record is sealed. There is no jury. You don't get to call witnesses. You don't get to put on evidence. You don't get to have the children spoken to. You don't get to talk to them. You don't get to have your doctor come in and talk about them. You get to work only with the evidence that the state brings in. And you are guilty until proven innocent, and you have no way to prove yourself innocent. And that's why legions of children are being taken from the politically incorrect every day now. And we worry about military tribunals. Tomorrow's legal system will be like today's child custody courts. Tomorrow, thought control will look like today's hate crime laws, where you go on trial for saying a word, like Lonnie Ray did, and you can be convicted for it, like Lonnie Ray was. Dress it up how you want. He wouldn't have been there but for that, and he wouldn't be under a conviction right now but for that. You know, I'd never lost a case until I got involved with these politically incorrect cases. I'd lived a charmed life. I really had. I had literally never lost a case at trial, not one. But I've been losing virtually every single one of these. It's gotten so my definition of winning, like in the Christine case, is beating just certain of the charges, because I know they're going down for the rest of them. Because when I get in front of a jury, or I get in front of a judge, there is no hope for the politically incorrect. And this illustrates for you what happens in a courtroom these days, even with the jury, if you're politically incorrect. And I've had more than one opportunity to be in a courtroom with a politically incorrect client, and I've seen that dark horse ride through and seen the most astonishing result come back out of that jury room, running counter to anything I'd ever seen. We've all heard of runaway juries. The O.J. jury is probably the most celebrated example in recent years. Richard Butler, who I'm going to talk about a little bit in a moment, had a runaway jury. They ran the other direction, though. When you have celebrity in the courtroom, the rules are different. If the jury really likes them, like they did O.J., they get to walk. If the jury really dislikes them, you're in trouble. And as bad as it might be, you'd be better off just with the judge. But even that's pretty bad. So the moral of this story, and of the stories I'm about to tell you, is that there is no justice for the politically incorrect in America today. Those days are gone.